And while many cities across the country are looking for ways to keep illegal immigrants out, New Haven is embracing them by becoming the first city in the nation to issue ID cards for them. It is a move, the mayor says, will keep them safe, for example, by allowing them to get bank accounts and not have to carry around so much cash. But not everyone is supporting the idea. Fox 61's Katisha Cosley was there when city aldermen approved the idea.
On one side of the narrow sidewalk outside New Haven City Hall, supporters of an immigration ID card.
Yankee, you hear me? Come back home and take this country back.
Just a few steps away, opponents also let their feelings be heard.
Listen to me.
At times, the tension went beyond the two individual sides.
Just back up a couple steps.
ID cards similar to this one that will allow illegal immigrants like Fatima Roja to be recognized within city limits.
It shows that I am resident of New Haven, I live here, I pay my taxes, and I can go anywhere with that ID.
Roja has a passport which allows her to get medical care for her 2-month-old. She also has a bank account, which is unusual for most illegals since most don't have IDs. But with this new card, which Roja plans to get, illegal immigrants can sign up for bank accounts or put up to $150 on the card and use it like a debit card.
What is the difference between me and if you give them ID?
Bouliant Ozap came to the States 15 years ago and got his citizenship 2 years ago. He thinks illegal immigrants need to go through the process just like he did.
I have kids in my country. I am American citizen, and I cannot bring my kids here. I have to wait 5-6 years, and they can come over the border.
People that buy, they pay bills, they pay rent, they're involved in the city. They don't have an ID, and it's only saying we are here, we're living, and we want to invest in our city.
And here now for a closer look are Melissa Bailey, who is the managing editor of the New Haven Independent, and David Eyes with Quinnipiac University. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. Melissa, let's start with you. How did all this come about?
Well, the idea arose about 4 years ago when members of our immigrant community in Fairhaven came forward with testimony of being robbed or assaulted because they were carrying around large amounts of cash because they didn't have proper documentation to get bank accounts. So the immigrant sort of advocates in the community came forward and decided that a good idea to protect them would be to give them identification in the hopes that they would just be safer on our streets.
And this is something, David, that you support.
I strongly support it. I'm ex-Peace Corps from Central America. I lived for a couple years in Costa Rica on the Nicaraguan border, and I go off into the area because I do humanitarian work down there. I know for a fact that Leon, which happens to be a sister city of New Haven, 70% of the population earns less than $2 a day. And if you earn that little, you'd try to leave and go someplace else that's better. And I think that given...
But a lot of people don't understand, then why do it illegally? Why not try to do it the proper way? It's impossible to do from what I understand.
It's absolutely impossible to do. And even one of the requirements of this bill that's in front of the Senate right now is that they, to be a citizen, they'd have to go back and wait for 8 years. Well, for some of them, that's a death sentence.
Because you're not going to be able to get back in.
No, the drinking water is terrible. They'd be waiting down there in poverty.
Now, I believe, Melissa, that this was pretty much passed by the aldermen like 25-1, am I correct?
Exactly. It saw really overwhelming support within our community. We had a hearing, a public hearing, where about 250 people showed up, and overwhelming support from unions and immigrant advocates, everyone pretty much within our community. Where the opposition has come has really been from other towns, and people coming in to protest City Hall from Danbury or Wallingford.
We actually have a graphic from the one alderwoman who voted against it, and she is a Republican. She said she voted against because she was afraid that it would attract other immigrants to the state and to New Haven, burdening services like hospitals and schools, and she said, quote, "I don't want to burden the already overburdened New Haven taxpayer." David, there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that may agree with what she's saying.
I'm sure there are, and I have to acknowledge that is a point. That's something that needs to be addressed. But when we're a residents of a country that is the richest country in the world, I think we can probably find the funds to support this. We're wasting a lot of money in the war in Iraq. I don't know if you remember that this war was supposed to pay for itself with all the oil that was coming out of there. I think that if we prioritized some of our expenditures in terms of human rights and caring about people who are poor, I think then we could find the money.
A lot of legal immigrants say that they do pay taxes.
Absolutely, they do pay taxes.
Taxes and sales taxes?
Sales
It's clearly
taxes.
not an income tax
Right.
if their salary's under the table, correct?
Right, but well, it's not an income tax, but they would, when they would pay a sales tax when they go out to some of the communities and spend some money there.
And Melissa, if again, take us back. I thought that was very interesting. So it was several years ago where immigrants were saying that they were being robbed. And explain how it is you can't open a bank account unless you have some type of identification. That was the problem they were facing.
Correct. So they're carrying large amounts of cash. We had a gentleman at the end of last year who was stabbed to death.
Stabbed to death?
Yeah, just after getting paid. And they have no way of securing their money, and they're pretty much moving targets.
And this is something that's gotten national attention. What's the city of New Haven been like?
Well, I mean, in the wake of, I guess, Wednesday morning, 36 hours after the alderman approved the ID, the federal immigration agents swept through New Haven, seizing 29 individuals suspected of being illegal aliens, and it's really an attitude of fear right now.
Let's go to tape real quickly, hear from the mayor why he decided to do this. He's gotten some national press. Let's go to tape.
Frankly, what this card is in part an expression of is acknowledging that everybody counts for something. It's an acknowledgement of collaboration, of working together, and frankly, to me, it's just part of an attitude you need to have when you have a place which has so many different people from so many different places. I'm not suggesting that this program will work for every city and town in America. I would hope, though, that particularly the Congress of the United States and the President moves to pass a fair and balanced immigration reform program.
So is this a done deal then in New Haven, the ID cards?
I'm not sure it's a done deal. I think it'll be challenged. I'm sure the federal government will have something to say about it, and I hope that in the end, though, the immigrants win.
We're definitely seeing a war between the federal authorities right now, and the city is just maintaining they're going to come out with these ID cards in the beginning of July, and they're not going to be deterred, and they believe that we're defining the city as a home for immigrants and not seeing them as a threat or people who need to be cast away.
All right. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. It's very insightful.
You're welcome.